Welcome back to the Full Out Real Estate Agent. I'm your host, Mark Faris. Today, I'm going to share the ultimate foundation to building a long-term business in real estate, and that is a genuine love of people. This is the ultimate foundation to build a thriving business that builds referrals, creates raving fans, and stands the test of time. Now, before I move on, if you do have a buyer or seller that's looking to move to the Simcoe County area, so that's just north of Toronto in Ontario, go ahead and book a call with us now, and we'll make sure that the client gets 5-star service. You can contact at faristeam.ca, or you can go ahead and click on the link below to book a call with us. Now, moving on, too many agents focus on closing the next deal instead of focusing on what's best for the client. So here's a question for you. What happens if you see a better home that comes on the market after you've already have an accepted offer on a house, or maybe you've already started to submit an offer, and then there's another property that comes up the next day? What do? And so do you play it safe and just keep the deal and not bring that property up to that client? Or do you risk the first deal not coming together, bring up that second property, and actually go after that second property that you think might be better for them? Like, what do you do? So I'm going to share a story of exactly that on when I had gone through this a number of years ago. So I called this client back and I told them, I said, we've got an accepted offer. Okay. They accepted it. Now, the home that they got, it was first-time home buyers. It was a great location. The lot was really nice. The house was okay, but it was within their budget. And so they were happy. But the next morning, I saw another home come on the market. It was a better location. It was a larger lot. It was for less money. There's more potential because they could have some sweat equity put into it. And they even had a second bathroom as well. And so I faced the tough choice of, what do? Do I not say anything, or do I let them know about the second property that came on? Now, it's really important for you to understand, when I was starting up in my career, we had maxed out our credit cards and we could really use this check. This was like 16 years ago. And I was like faced with this real struggle of a question. Like, do I risk that first deal because it was already accepted? Or do I just move forward with it? And so I started asking myself good questions, like, what would I want if I were the client? And if it was a family member, what would I do? What was the right thing to do? And the answer, when I started filtering through these questions, not what's best for me, but what was best for the client, the answer became clear. So I called them and told them that there was another property that came on the market. It checks all the boxes, and there is a risk because we have another deal under contract now that is just actually getting accepted by the other side. And do you want to go take a look at it? And they agreed. They said, yeah, let's go take a look. And they went and saw it, and they loved it. And the problem was that now that they saw it, there was a bidding war on that second property. Well, we ended up submitting an offer and we won. And we let the other agent know what happened, and we were truthful with them. And now the clients were ecstatic, okay? So we ended up getting that second property, and it was a much better scenario than that first property. Now, the call came from the client just saying, hey, listen, Mark, we know you made less commission on this because it was less home, and it was lower priced home, and you had to put in that extra work there, but I just really wanted to thank you, is what the client, his name was Adam. And he said, not many agents would have done that. So thank you. And so that client ended up referring me multi more deals, and multi-million-dollar deals as well, because I put them first. Now, love was the value that I essentially filtered my decision through of, what should I do in that scenario? Should I not say anything, or should I just, let them know what's going on, let them know there's another potential, and then let them decide? And so it was love that I filtered it through. And so love is the foundation of real estate success long term. Now, I'm not talking about the romantic love. I'm talking about agape love. And so agape love is a genuine love of people. Now, the word love is often, it's misunderstood, right? Most people associate it with this romantic love. But there's different kinds of love that's out there. So there's like eros, which is the romantic love, right? It's based on that physical attraction. There's philos, which is friendship love. So it's among companions. And then there's storge, which is family love, right? So it's like love of your mom, your dad, your brother, sister. And then there's agape love, unconditional love. And so this is more of a choice rather than like an emotion, right? And so agape love is the foundation of success in relationships in business. And so the key principle here is think of agape love of doing the right thing because you have a genuine love for them. And so the top brands out there, they know this. Southwest Airlines, Chick-fil-A, Ritz-Carlton, Zappos, they win because they love their employees and their customers as well. And so real estate's no different. And so the best definition that I've been able to find on love, to go deeper on this topic, is straight from a 2,000-year-old letter to Corinth. So this is Corinth, Greece. And so this was actually Paul was an apostle of Jesus Christ. And so he wrote a letter on what love was to a church. So here's the letter. Love is patient and kind, not jealous, boastful, or rude, not selfish or quick-tempered, always supportive, loyal, and hopeful. Love never gives up on people. This is the real secret to a successful real estate career. This letter summarizes it so well. And so I'm going to break down each one of these. So first is patience. So it's really important to see things from the client's perspective when we're working with a client. So empathy builds a lot of trust and seeing things from their point of view, like actually put yourself in their shoes to see, what is it that they're feeling or what could they be feeling if you were in their shoes. Everybody has a story. And so if a client's upset with you, like slow down and imagine yourself in their shoes. And, they could have just had a really bad day. Maybe that there was a family member that became sick, or there was something going on and maybe they're just going through a separation and he's going through a really hard time. You never know the challenges that they're facing. And so being patient through this is really important to basically deliver that great service, right? So if you're filtering your response through love, right, that's patience. And so that will actually come across in a great way to build a business that people will want to come back to you. Now, agape love removes the sting, right? So respond with kindness, not frustration. When people are maybe doing things that you don't have patience for them, but patience overall is a great way to show love. The next is kindness. Clients need to feel valued. And so just think of your clients with an invisible sign that they're wearing around their neck saying, love me, appreciate me, guide me, don't ignore me, communicate with me, right? And so being kind when you're communicating with them, it's in the small actions that you can do this in. So using their name, right? Listen actively so that they actually believe and they know that you really care for them. And just make it about them, not you. Being kind is a great way of showing love. The next is not being jealous, boastful, prideful, or being rude. So the number one business killer in real estate for real estate agents that many struggle with is superiority. So thinking that you're better than the client. So not thinking that the client is putting food on your table, you think that you're doing them a favor by serving them. And it's the other way around, especially as you become more successful. It becomes, we'll say, easier and easier to become superior. And clients, they smell it. It reeks to clients when there's a superiority there about them. Now, this is very different than confidence. You can have a humble confidence about yourself that you're going to do a great job for them, but being superior to them is a big no-no if you want to build your business. Okay, just remember how you make them feel, good or bad, is what they're going to remember, right? Not so much what you say, but how you make them feel. So staying humble is one of the keys to the most successful agents out there on being great and being at the top of the game for long term. So I'll share an example of this. I went on a listing appointment. I was competing, and I walked in, and it was a beautiful first-time home selling couple. So they were young, they were selling their first home, and it was a smaller townhouse. And so the kitchen didn't have a big eat-in area. They just had a little table there. And so I walked in, I gave them a compliment, and we ended up sitting down at that table. And so that couple ended up telling me, they said, you know what, we really appreciate how you're treating us, and we know we don't have a palace here. And they were super kind, they're they were beautiful, right? And so they almost felt like embarrassed that they were selling such a small home. And so, because we do, multi-million dollar properties as well. And they went on to say that the agent that came in before me had looked around in the kitchen and kind of made a little bit of a smirk and said, well, I guess we're going to sit here at this table. I guess this is where we're going to sit. And they felt so slanted. They felt so, we'll say, put down by that agent. And they shared that with me, and just my heart went out to them. And so I realized that many agents are treating clients this way. And so the thing is the client will never forget. Whenever they see that name, they're always going to share the story. So don't think that if you say you don't do a good job for somebody, that it stops with them. That word will spread. So being humble and not boastful or prideful is very, very important on building a real estate business that survives long term. The next one is not being selfish. So just being generous. So being generous in the gray areas is what's really key. So people ask me a lot, like, how do you work with your family? How do you work with your brothers? I have 3 brothers that work with me on our team. And so one of the things that with the brothers that we've always done is whenever there's a gray area, we've always been generous with each other. So it's like, no, you take it. And then the other one's like, no, you take it, right? And so being generous, not only with clients, but other agents is something that goes a long, long way, okay? And so just think of it as an investment in the relationship and in your reputation when you go the extra mile and you give in the gray area. And my experience has been when you give in the gray areas, it comes back to you much greater, okay? So going the extra mile for clients and others is an investment in a strong reputation and in your relationship as well. Because what happens is it actually triggers the rule of reciprocity. So when you give, you make other people want to give back to you. And a lot of times it takes you being the first person to give that opens up the door for a much, much better, more fruitful relationship. People naturally want to give back to you, right? It's a natural thing. When you give to them, they think outside the box and they almost feel like uncomfortable until they can give back to you. The next one is forgiveness. So holding on to grudges, it's like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to be hurt by it. And so here's an example that I've had in the past. So I had an agent that was in my office that we had a disagreement on. And we had actually, exchanged words through email, and actually it was on phone call as well, back and forth. And so it didn't end well. And so some time had passed, and I always had a little bit of a grudge against him, right? Because, he had said something and I took offense to it, and, it went on and on. Anyways, I was sitting in church one day and they were the pastor was talking about forgiveness. And I thought there, and it's like this situation came up in my head. And I was like, oh man, I should probably give him a call. And so I did. And I called him and I just said, hey, listen, that argument that we had, I just wanted to call and just let you know, I apologize. And, moving forward there, I wouldn't mind, catching up and, putting that behind us. And so what he ended up saying was, I said, maybe we can grab a coffee sometime. He's like, oh, how about a beer? And so we actually go out for a beer and we sit down and we were just talking. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, when that happened, he's like, I was going through a real tough time. He's like, my brother just passed away. And I was struggling through that period. And he shared that with me. And, it really opened my eyes that, there was context to why perhaps there was a response a certain way. And so it took me to, step up to the plate and open that conversation up to be able to be exposed to that, But that changed everything for me when I found out about that. And so anything that was remaining was totally dissolved. And so moving forward, that context was really helpful. Whenever I was dealing with an agent, or maybe there was a client and they did something to cross the line, I slowed down and I thought about that example and thought, you know what, they might be going through something else, total forgiveness on that. I'm just going to move on. And so I found that approach to be so powerful, because what happens is when somebody is going at you and they do something and you keep on treating them well, then they feel bad and they want to do a good job for you and come back. And so I found the relationships to be improved drastically. So remember that story next time somebody crosses the line. They might have something going on in their life that is a real struggle that has context on why they're maybe snapping back that way. Okay, so super helpful. And so if you can think of a scenario with an agent or maybe a client, or just call them up and say, hey, listen, when that scenario came up, I was off on that. I take ownership for my part of that, and I could have done a better job. And so sometimes I don't get it right. Like if I'm going in on a business and I meet the secretary or the front reception, the odd time, this happened a couple times in the past, Joanna said, you were a little bit short with her. And I thought, oh, really? She's like, yeah, no, you were a little bit curt. And I thought about it after. I'm like, you know what? I think I was. And so I would actually go back to that reception in that business and say, hey, listen, I came off a little bit, hot, or, I just want to apologize if I came off. And I would go back and I would make it right then and there, because, people remember that, right? And so they also remember if you go back and you take ownership for it. And so if you ask for forgiveness, it's one of those things that helps clear the air. All right, so the next is rejoices in truth. So truth simplifies your life in a real big way, because if you start doing little small lies, right, you have to remember all those small lies, and it's stressful, right? So just speaking truth is really good. So now when you're dealing with a client and they need to hear the truth that's maybe a little bit tough, candor is a very good thing. Okay, but coming from a loving place is how you want to do it. And maybe you have a friend that needs some tough love conversation. You can still be loving towards them, but giving them candor as well, right? And just speaking straight. And so being direct and clear on the plan moving forward when a client is maybe hesitating on a home is another example of that. So integrity builds trust. Integrity builds trust. And this leads to long-term business success, where people will come back to you because they know they can trust you. All right, the next is supportive, loyal, and trustworthy. Trash talking clients just hurts you, okay? It is not attractive at all. And the client, when they hear that, even other agents, when they hear you trash talking others, they, in the back of their mind, is like, well, what are they saying about me? Right? And so it never looks good. So just avoid phrases altogether like buyers are liars, right? When you think like that, it starts to come across to buyers, and they can smell it as well if that's how you really feel about them. And so how you think about clients affects on how you treat them. Okay, that's really important. If you have a genuine love towards them, you will start to act in accordance with how you think. So guide clients throughout discovery. They don't always know what they want. And so this is where, when you're guiding them along and they don't know what they want, this is where you can be a true support to them and build a lot of trust through that period, when maybe most agents would perhaps, say, oh, you don't know what you want, or, I'm not going to spend any time with you. Help guide them through that, and just be somebody that they can count on that will add a lot of value in their life. Okay. So the next one is hopeful. So I say to be the CEO of your business, as in the chief encouragement officer, right? Chief encouragement officer. So this is really good, because we all need encouragement, and the client needs a lot of reassurance when they're buying a property. So just remind them why they're making a move. So it's really important when you first meet a client, whether it's a buyer or seller, get extremely clear what the outcome is that they're looking for. And you can always reference back to that when you're working with them. Okay. And so when, there are bombs going off and things happening really fast, just go back and remind them why they started and what they're trying to accomplish there. And just being that problem solver, when you have that mindset of being a problem solver and helping them get to their destination that they want to, it lowers a lot of stress for the client. And you are focusing on solutions, not on problems. And so here's one last tip on when it comes down to being hopeful, is that when a client loses out on a multiple offer deal, right? So they lose out on that deal, make sure you get them back looking at properties, get them back in the saddle as fast as possible. All right, the next is love never gives up on people. So if a client chooses another agent, how you react determines if they're going to return to you down the road. So you have two options. The client calls you up and say, hey, listen, I'm going to work with somebody else, right? You have two options in that scenario. You can either one, burn the bridge and sever the relationship, as in, you yell back at them and say, I can't believe you're working with somebody else, right? Maybe they were interviewing a number of agents and they selected another agent. Well, when you have the conversation with them, you can be rude, burn the bridge, sever the relationship, or two, you can respond with love and keep the door open. So, wish them all the best. And I've lost count the amount of times that clients have come back to me because I responded with love, right? I responded with, no problem, wish you all the best. And I'm here, just make sure to know that the door is left open. And if it doesn't go according to plan, I'm more than happy here to help you. And by doing that, keeping that door open, I've had many, many, many clients come back and say, hey, listen, that wasn't a right decision going in that other direction. I want to come work with you now. And so throughout our team, this has happened thousands of times. All right, to tie everything together, if you want to build a thriving long-term real estate business, start with love. Remember, love is patient and kind, not jealous, boastful, or rude, not selfish or quick-tempered, always supportive, loyal, and hopeful. Love never gives up on people. Okay, remember that quote, okay? And you will know what to do on a day-to-day basis. Just remember that agape love is the genuine love of people, and it's the rocket fuel that will take your career to the next level. Thanks for listening, guys. My mission for you is to become a full-out real estate agent, and together we can elevate the entire industry together. I love you guys, and keep on going full out.